Nearly 1.5 million children attend childcare in Australia, across 17,000 government-approved services. Data from the national regulator shows since 2018, the number of children getting injured at childcare has doubled. More than 1,000 families and educators contacted 730 in response to our investigation. They told us that low pay and untenable working conditions are driving experienced people from the sector, that centres are routinely out of legal supervision ratios, and children are not always safe.
It's hard. So I try and keep busy so that I don't just let myself fall to pieces.
In March 2020, Rashelle Jobson's second daughter, Lilliana, was just 20 months old when she suffered a head injury at her childcare centre. She died in her sleep the same night.
I was very much in shock. I couldn't really sleep. And when I did, I had to have Sienna sleeping with me. We slept at my mum's house for like 2 weeks because I just couldn't go home.
Life has changed a lot for the family in the last few years.
You make cupcakes?
Rashelle has just had another baby girl, Florence.
She looks a lot like the two girls.
I love you, baby sister.
4 years ago, Rashelle was as busy as it gets, working 2 jobs and studying full-time.
There was a lot of travel, a lot of juggling everything around and just trying to keep on top of everything.
Rashelle was at work around 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon when she received a call from the girls' childcare centre in southeast Queensland. She was told 1-year-old Lilly had hit her head after being pushed by another child at the top of a slide.
I said my mum's picking her up at 5 otherwise, but I'm more than happy to leave work and come and get her if you think it's serious. And they just brushed it off and were just like, no, she's not crying anymore, she seems okay, she seems fine to us. So I was like, I trusted their judgment. I wasn't there to see how bad the fall or head knock had been.
That evening, Rashelle collected the girls from her mum's house, took them home and put them to bed. Just after midnight, her then partner woke her when Sienna entered the room crying. Rashelle walked her back to the room the girls shared.
And as I walked in the door, I kind of just noticed Lily face down on the bed. I stood there for probably only a couple of seconds and just watched to see if I could see her breathing. And then I rolled her over and I just knew straight away that she was gone. She'd passed away, and I picked her up and I ran her into my partner at the time. He started CPR on her while I called the ambulance.
Paramedics transported Lilly to Caboolture Hospital, but she couldn't be revived. She was pronounced dead at 1:27 a.m. A forensic pathologist report would later find she had food deep in her lungs. She'd been choking on her vomit.
It was all just a blur, honestly. Going to funeral homes and having to organise a funeral for a 20-month-old. Sorry.
It's not mandatory for centres to have CCTV, and none captured the playground at Lily's childcare. The centre reported that Lilly hit the back of her head, but the autopsy report noted her injury was at the top. In a statement, the childcare centre told 730 they'd fully cooperated with the investigations at the time. 4 years later, Rashelle still has questions.
It does state in the coroner's report that it was a result of blunt force trauma, and that, was she pushed down a slide or was she hit in the head by a kid with a toy? It doesn't add up and it doesn't make sense.
The cause of Lilliana's death is recorded as undetermined. The forensic pathologist who examined Lilly's body concluded that her head injury may have caused concussion, vomiting and then choking. The report said these events could explain her death. But the pathologist also suggested Lilly may have had an unknown seizure or cardiac disorder because 3 months before her death, she'd passed out after hitting her head on concrete while playing with her sister.
1, 2, 3, jump! 1, 2, 3, jump! For me, it all boiled down to that head knock. She was otherwise healthy. They kept coming up with this suggestion that maybe she had a seizure disorder, even though we'd never seen any indication of any type of seizure before.
State and territory education departments regulate childcare centres. Rashelle says she wasn't informed by the department that they'd investigated her child's death.
No one ever contacted us from the education department to find out what had happened.
The department told 7:30 its investigation didn't identify breaches of the national regulations relating to supervision or first aid policies. In a statement, it said,
"The first aid applied was reasonable in the circumstances and there was no evidence that Lilliana's symptoms or the circumstance of her injury required further action."
Rashelle wants it to become mandatory for children who suffer a head injury at childcare to be assessed by a doctor.
Because they had assured me, and I felt reassured by their words, that she was fine, nothing was wrong, it wasn't that big of a head knock. So I was like, it's okay. But at the end of the day, they weren't qualified to make that judgment.
Brisbane coroner Christine Clements reviewed the autopsy report and in June 2021 advised Rashelle she'd decided not to hold a public inquest.
There does not appear to be any prospect of making recommendations that would reduce the likelihood of similar deaths occurring in future or otherwise contribute to public health and safety.
The court told 7:30 if the family is dissatisfied with the findings, they can apply to the state coroner to reopen the case. Late last year, the national regulator published data showing cases of inadequate supervision have trebled since 2016.
Individual incidents happen for different reasons, right? And I think the best thing that we can do is ensure that there is a standard in place and address the issues around things like line of supervision.
The report also detailed a persistent and acute staff shortage in the childcare sector.
Well, all of those pieces will inform that reform plan, and we're working through that at the moment. But what we do know is that the end goal, what we want to achieve from all of this, is that system that is world-class and is affordable, that is accessible, that is inclusive and that is safe. There is significant work to be done.
In Western Sydney, Delilah Lewis is a happy and healthy 2-year-old. 8 months ago, she was injured at her childcare in circumstances that still haunt mum Rebecca.
I just went there at my normal time. There was one of the workers holding her and they just told me, I think she might be cold, maybe bring another jumper next week.
Want some snacky?
It was immediately apparent to Rebecca that something was wrong.
She was quiet and very still, and that alone is incredibly unusual for her. When we first took her out of the car seat and she just started screaming uncontrollably, we've never heard her scream like that before or act like that before. And we noticed one of her arms was dropping. I actually thought she dislocated her shoulder.
Rebecca took her to hospital where the injury was quickly diagnosed.
She was there with a nurse for about 5 minutes and she's pretty much straight away, she's like, yeah, she's got a broken elbow.
A couple of days later, Rebecca met with the centre director.
I went there on the Monday as soon as he would have a meeting with me. First thing he asked us to do is to sign an incident form, which obviously didn't exist on the Friday.
The director showed her playground CCTV of the incident.
I seen her fall backwards off the slide, going up a ladder to it. And then she walks up to one of the educators, and I just see the educator turn their back on her and tend to another child.
The New South Wales Education Department told 7:30 centre staff had reported there were no obvious signs of injury to Delilah's arm. The investigation concluded while staff hadn't seen Delilah fall, there were no supervision breaches. The centre told Rebecca it would increase supervision around slides and install soft fall mats. It told 7:30 it already had comprehensive first aid policies.
They said that they were sorry that it happened, but I'm like, well, it did happen, but it shouldn't have happened.
So she was 1 year and 8 months.
That's one of my favourites.
Until it's something as tragic as the death of a child, you just don't hear about it. And, you know, it's not until you're in that situation that you really realise how broken the system is.